Algeria went through 10 years of civil war and 100,000 people were killed. We had another example, but it was after 2003. That was when the Palestinians held their elections, the only one so far, in 2006. And who won it? Hamas. Hamas, the Islamic resistance movement that comes out of the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood movement. And what was this election? It was part of the Oslo peace process that Israel and the late Yasser Arafat had signed, Yitzhak Rabin and Arafat under Bill Clinton's tutelage. And what was Hamas's platform? We'll run in these elections, even though we oppose the peace process, we'll win them, and then we'll ban elections and bring in a Muslim fundamentalist state. So that was the record beforehand. So, I was just warning that with Saddam and whatever, we probably wouldn't succeed in doing that. And some of you may have served there, or family and whatever, and I'm not disparaging any of our great soldiers and all that they did. But let's face it, it was supposed to cost $80 billion, it cost $800 billion. That's one of the reasons I was questioning it as well, because we were broke and pretending like we weren't. Way overspending beyond our means, which we've been doing as a country for a long time before that. Not just that president, that goes way, way back. And that the Middle East, Arab, Muslim world is not ready for Western-style democracy. They don't have the basis for it. They don't have the background for it. They're just not there by any means yet. Well, so far we've had 2 elections as a result of this Arab Spring, in Tunisia itself and in Egypt. And who's won both of them? Muslim fundamentalists. In Tunisia's case, they say a moderate Muslim fundamentalist movement, but moderate is a relative term. In Egypt's case, definitely not moderates. It was the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood movement that took over 50%. A smaller Muslim fundamentalist party, even more radical than them, took another 20%. They took 70% of the seats in the new parliaments. They were just this past week drafting the new constitution, the new parliament was, and a lot of the secular politicians walked out of the meeting because they said the Muslim Brotherhood is ramming down Islamic Sharia law in this new constitution. They're planning to turn Egypt into a Shiite, to a Sunni Muslim extremist state. They hate the United States, they hate Israel, they hate Christians, and they're already persecuting the Coptic Christians. And this, of course, is ironic because a lot of those young people out in the streets of Cairo a year ago, February, were young Coptic Christians who are better educated, generally speaking, and they're the ones with the cell phones and the Facebook pages more likely than the Muslims. Some of the Muslims do too, but they tend to more than that. The average Muslim Egyptian girl gets married by about age 14. She goes to school to about 5th or 6th grade. This is one of the main problems in Egypt. People say, well, what's the underlying situation there? I say, well, when I moved to Israel in 1980, there were 33 million Egyptians in Egypt. 33 million. Today, 31 years later only, there's 83. From 33 to 83, that's almost a tripling of the population. Just think about the United States. Since 1980, and it looks like one of you two who were alive then as I was in 1980, think if our population had tripled in that time. Would we have the roads? Would we have the schools? Would we have the jobs? Could we keep up with such a massive explosion of population? No, and we're one of the wealthiest countries on earth. Certainly Egypt, one of the poorest countries, cannot do so. So this is the core problem going on in that land. But the Coptic Christians are now fleeing the country because the persecution is increasing. They see this Muslim fundamentalist movement coming in. In Yemen, again, another dictator, Saleh, been there for 30 years, typical stuff. But who's leading the fight against him? A group called Al-Qaeda. Do we really want Al-Qaeda ruling just south of the world's largest oil fields? In Yemen? In Bahrain, who was leading the revolt there against the sheiks, the rich sheiks, and you've got just a few little statements there that are filthy rich, and then all the rest of the Arab world's dirt poor, but that's the situation. Who was leading it? It was Shiite Muslims, many of them Lebanese Hezbollah supporters, backed by Iran.